9, 8, 7. We have a go for main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff.
Zero boss, suicide door, brand new bag. College girls give it in my raps. Rockstar life, so much money, I'll make you laugh. Hey, they hate and you can't miss what you never had. Hey, hey, off the juice, got me tripping. Cut the coupe, walker roof is missing. Ice, lemonade, my neck was tripping. Ice, lemonade, my neck was tripping.
Boys got some 60s in my bag. Lips sealed, ain't pillow talking on no rag. In my earlobe, got 2 carats, VVS. Got a penthouse near Rodeo, off for stress. All this money, when I grew up, I had nothing. Filled with backstabbing, my whole life is disgusting. Can't believe it, gotta thank God that I'm living comfortably. Getting checks, I don't believe, but she say she done with me. Burn some bridges and I let the fire light the way. Kicking my feet up, left the PJs on a PJ. Young or big dog and I walk around with no leash. I got water on me, yeah, everything on Fiji.
Zero, suicide door, brand new bag. College girls give it in my raps. Rockstar life, so much money, I'll make you laugh. Hey, they hate and you can't miss what you never had. Hey, hey, off the juice, got me tripping. Cut the coupe, walker roof is missing. Ice, lemonade, my neck was tripping. Ice, lemonade, my neck was tripping.
I rock a star, pack up doors, tipping walls, hey. Raw, finit dogs, balls, hey. I was 15, I said with my dog, hey. Now I feel nauseous. Put up a stick and I hop on a plane, still in my wall waist. This so risky, I gotta be gifted. He blessed me with fortune and fame. I remember from 50, I couldn't go back empty. I knew I was stuck to the game. Loyal and I never change. I'm never gonna go against the grain. I'm never gonna be the one turn on my brother when police just gotta detain. I won't ever love it more than my mother, and that's on my government name. I can't be no sucker, I ain't hating on no one. I wish everybody get paid. Cause we can't up every day. Getting hot talent in the grave.
Zero, suicide door, brand new bag. College girls give it in my raps. Rockstar life, so much money, I'll make you laugh. Hey, they hate and you can't miss what you never had. Hey, hey, off the juice, got me tripping. Cut the coupe, walker roof is missing. Ice, lemonade, my neck was tripping. Ice, lemonade, my neck was tripping.
What is up? What is up? What is up, SFL Nation? Welcome back to SFL Nights with AJ Striker. Thank you so much for joining me today or tonight or whenever you decide to hit that play button or turn on that radio dial. I really appreciate it, y'all. And I am back with a special show. I did have a show previously on Thursday where I featured running backs, fullbacks, and wide receivers, but I forgot to put out that I was live, y'all. So that was my bad. You know, sometimes it happens being an executive producer where you have to send your own stuff, make your own cuts, do all of that stuff. It can be a little daunting sometimes. So forgive me if you missed the show. I do have a link in the Discord. I will post a link or a link in the description for that show so you can go check it out. But tonight, well, today, this beautiful Saturday, I should say, I will be joined with my special guest, Mr. Commissioner Alex West, and he will be giving us an overview on the SFLm and Dev leagues, changes that are occurring, good stuff around the corner, and a little bit about his day-to-day life being the commissioner of the SFLm. And let me go ahead and bring him up right now. He is in the building. What's going on, Alex?
Hey, always a blessing to be here. Always fun to be on, and so glad to have an opportunity to, just chop it up with you, because I love that you give me some straight shots. You're very sweet. You're very kind and a gracious host, but you also are not afraid to hold my feet to the fire. It's a nice balance.
Hey, man, I just treat people the way I would want to be treated, dear. That's all I can do. You know.
Well, maybe tell Eddie Gage he could be a little nicer. Huh? That man comes ready to go.
Are you sure it's Eddie? Or are you sure it's
I
not
love
Brandon?
him. That's fair. Both of them feed off each other. I love them, though. I love them. I never want them to change, but also.
Indeed. And plus, that brings the balance. Like they're the hard hitters. They're the, and I can go either way. Depends on how the wind blows. But I
Yeah.
prefer to be I prefer to put out honey. That's all. But I'm glad you're here. And there have been some major changes that have been happening since you've made the move to be the commissioner. And I just want to know how you're doing first. That's first. So I want you to give yourself a grade for season 10, this SFLm season 10, and for yourself as being the commissioner.
Okay. I would say that the quality of the product as far as season 10 goes, I would honestly give, thus far, we haven't hit playoffs yet, but so far, just looking at the regular season, I would give the regular season an 8.5 out of 10, if not a 9 out of 10, somewhere in there. I'm extremely happy with the quality of the product that I put on the field, especially considering that we're working with only 4 teams, considering that we are only running 20 games total for the whole season. I think that, that does, take a little bit of pressure off, because it's easier to run fewer games. It's a little easier theoretically to hold, to run a season with fewer variables to have to consider. But at the same time, I also still have to try and drive interest, try and make people care, make there be stakes, and ensure there's still something worth playing for, and that things don't look for like foregone conclusions, which I would say, arguably, I have accomplished. At least as far as a product goes. Now, as far as myself as a commissioner goes, I am my own worst critic. Let's say that 5 is like a barely passing grade. I would say that I honestly hit about a 5.5 at best. There are a few too many weeks where I was thankfully on time for most of my broadcasts. The most I think I was ever late for getting a game up there was 15 minutes. And that was due to some technical issues that we're having to work on. And that I feel good about. But also being on time for my own broadcast feels like a hard thing to really like pat myself too hard on the back for, I said I say the game's going to kick off at 7. The game kicks off at 7:05. I'm okay with that. But I try to make things kick off as close to on time as possible. The problem that I was running into was manpower, how long people were waiting for stats to be updated on the website, because I was running into very real manpower challenges, and juggling the fact that I have a real day job that pays my bills and takes up time and energy, and I have a wife, and I have a life to lead, and I have a whole bunch of other factors, and I took on a second job, basically, without fully considering all of the factors that I was going to have to be ready and prepared for. And so I thankfully had a community that rallied around me and people that volunteered to step up and help with some running of things. But even then, stats took a long time to get updated until DJ got involved. Thank you, DJ, again, for all the work he's done. DJ Kilgannon took over stats. He's been a blessing. He, at this point, is working with me on getting awards decided for the SFLm, because I don't have the brain space to do that myself. So he's stepping in to provide some short lists so that we can actually get some awards out there this season for the deserving rookies.
That is dope. I love it.
Right?
I love it.
Love him. But that's only possible because of him. Frank Doom stepping up at various points of the season to help with the roster file has been a huge help. Him and JW both. JW providing the occasional second glance at things just to make sure whenever I didn't have a chance to look at things to make sure everything was right, JW is willing to step in and fill that role. But the fact remains that I wasn't always able to get roster files updated myself. I wasn't able to get stats updated myself. And by the time I had realized that I needed help with those things, we were already a few weeks deep in the season. And then there's been a couple of weeks where I didn't have the form updated in time or I didn't have the Google form for progressions updated in the portal in time for the next weeks of progression to hit. So I had to make a few executive decisions at those times. There's the occasional instance where a player overspent by about $10 because they didn't know that they didn't have that money because I didn't get a form in updated to subtract money from their bank account. So that's on me. That's not on the player. So that's why I give myself such a harsh grade. And we haven't even talked about the Dev League, which is a whole other conversation of itself, which is at least 2 points off the 10, at least 2. So we can talk about my failings a lot more in depth as we go on in reflections, but that's how I feel. I feel like the product is good. I feel like I, as a commissioner, learned a lot of hard lessons and still have more lessons to learn to going into season 11. And if I want to try and continue being commissioner beyond that, I need to have a lot more stuff in place and ready to go, because the rookies deserve better than what they got. The dev team deserves better than what they got. And as happy as I am with the product, I know that there's more on the table. That I left plenty on the table this season, but I was never expecting to be perfect. I was never expecting to be good. The fact that I've gotten as much praise as I have honestly baffles and astounds me a little bit, but I'm very appreciative of it.
I think because people look at it from a different lens, more people probably are paying attention to what is getting done than what's not. And you and maybe a few others would know that to that extent. So I love the fact that, you're humble about it and you were honest about it, But we can talk about the Dev League while we're here.
Yeah.
It
was a part of that article for a reason. So
yeah.
So let's talk about the Dev League, or rather, let's talk about why there wasn't a Dev League this season. Because let's be honest, the SFL season is basically over. There's only a few weeks left. There's not that many games left to play in the regular season, and then there's playoffs. At the very least, let's just talk about why we didn't have a Dev League. And there's some obvious statements to be made, and that's I made the decision as commissioner that the rookies did not need their prices screwed with for another season because of portal issues. And while my heart went out to the dev team, and while I felt for them, hell, I've been on the dev team for an entire. I've been on the dev team before for an entire calendar year. In fact, I know what it is to be on the dev team and not feel like you're getting anywhere. So while I recognize, see them, and appreciate their pain, the point I always made was that the goal of this is to try and help protect the rookie class so that they can continue to grow, and we can work out what we need to do for the dev team later. But I only have so much bandwidth to uphold. I only have so much that I can focus on, so much that I can do, so much that I can directly control. So I'm limiting my scope to just the rookies, and I did step out of that box a little bit. At one point, I made bonus payouts to the Dev League list of people that would have been on the Dev League. I gave them all cash payouts mid-season, trying to say, hey, I know there's no Dev League. I know there's no update yet. Here's what I can do for right now. And it was what I was capable of doing at that moment, what I felt was the best thing to do at the time. And I stand by the ultimate decision to keep the Dev League and the rookies separate, even though that hurt the Dev League this season in terms of their ability to progress during the season and during this season, even going into playoffs. I recognize that there's a lot of people who have not seen meaningful growth in their players in the pros. I sympathize. I feel for you. I do. This is why training camp. This is why we came up with the training camp, because I would not have been able. It was a struggle for me to update 40 players manually on the stats on the website week in and week out. I wasn't even able to do 40 players on a consistent basis. To ask Cam to hand the keys over to multiple people other that are not me to try and update 100 people, I don't feel comfortable with that. Because changes that other people make, if I ask for them to get the keys and they do something untowards, or they just make mistakes, which can happen, that's me. That's not just them, but it's also me, because they only have the keys because I asked for it. So that's my responsibility, and I'm very particular about that. I'm very, very, very particular about what I'm willing to do, how much risk I am willing to take on, and how much risk I am willing to accept on behalf of other people. Not because I don't trust people, but also just because it's a big responsibility and it's important to get it right. It's so important to get it right because this is people's money, this is people's hobbies, this is people's passions that I'm playing with here.
In
So
your
it's
name.
important. Yeah, and it's in my name. So my name is on it. So that's why no dev league. And that's why we recently got an update from the developer that the button to create a new dev league, to create a new league, is functional. And we have pushed the button. And there is now in existence a dev league that has no one in it. It's just been created. So we have not tested it yet. That's problem number one. We have not tested it to see if it actually will allow us to slot players in and then create progression weeks. And if those progression weeks will then deploy money out to these players and allow them to progress. That's on our list of things to do before we try to actually start creating and initializing players who would be on the dev league for season 11. You know, we need to do a round of testing for that to make sure that all of that functions appropriately for the regular season. Because at this point, I've already decided that the training camp is the best way to try and make things up, to try and get those missed weeks of progressions in, because that's 19 weeks of progression at +3 each. That's 57 points.
57 points.
And not only that, the thing about that 57 points is it's not weekly either. It's not going up in price every 3 points, every time you spend 3 points in something and every time someone else spends 3 points in something. It's all at a flat rate.
That was going to be my next question. When during training camp, when they are spending all of these points and getting their players better and utilizing all of these at the same time, is it going to drive up the cost of the attributes?
Nope.
In the majors? Wow.
Well, in the majors, I can't say, because here's the thing, is that the training camp itself is going to be us creating we're going to be creating an economy that is just the Dev League players plus the UDFAs plus ballast players based on, I think it's going to be 1 ballast player for every 4 regular players, rounding up to minimum of 1. So if we have 3 kickers, because we have 3 UDFA kickers, I haven't checked this, but I'm just off the top of my head, we have 3 kickers, I'm adding 1 ballast player. If we have 9 cornerbacks, I'm adding 2 ballast players. So that's going to be one way that I try to help regulate cost and establish what that economy is going to look like. But that's the other thing, is that this economy is also going to be built off of a single snapshot of what the cost for buying attributes is at that exact moment in time. And because of when this is scheduled in the calendar year, this is well post the SFL championship. This is well post the ability of anyone to naturally buy or sell off attributes. This is after all that progression window is closed. That is intentional, because I don't want this change or this training camp to affect the major league or affect major league prices. And I also don't want to have the fact that we have an untested dev league. I don't want to suddenly pull everyone that's would be a dev leaguer out of the major leagues and out of the major league economy pool, because I don't know what that's going to do to the major leagues either. Ostensibly, because I'm taking off the bottom 10%, that means that the league average and all of these on a lot of stats is going to rise dramatically, especially because I'm getting rid of the UDFAs. This is going to pull them out of that pool too. So to play with getting these players out of the economy right now would send the whole thing haywire. That's why we're waiting. That's part of why we're waiting. And while I recognize that this presents a new set of problems, every choice that I make is going to hurt somebody. And while I have to choose who I want to be nice to, and I want to be nice to the dev leaguers because I've been making them wait all season. So that means that now the people that are going to be most upset by this development are the GMs, because now their salary calculations are out the window. So I empathize, but also, hey, your players are getting better. How bad is it really?
And the thing is, it's all about your perception, right? So you are making these players more major league worthy, so that they have the ability to be placed in these positions that people are leaving from, they're retiring. So now I can actually grab this rookie because he's not so low, or this dead player because they're not so low in their attributes to where, okay, basically they're just going to be a seat filler on my team because they can't get the ball, they can't make any plays because the player is not as developed as it should be. So
Exactly. A
you're
55
taking,
over a 55, 56 overall tight end is not going to be making impact plays on the field. That's
right,
just a reality of the SFL. There are too many talented linebackers, corners, and safeties to pretend that of a UDFA tight end or a tight end who's had 6 months to cook at +3 a week, and that's all they got. And that was their that they got half season action last year. These tight ends are not going to be contributing in big impact ways. Ask me how I know.
how do you know?
I run the numbers. I've been watching people's pro productions. And also, I had exactly 3 months to cook for my rookie season before I got drafted. I saw 4 catches my rookie season. I know how it works.
And I think that does say something when you've actually been in that position, because people will say, well, you don't know how this feels. Yes, I do. And this is why you're taking the necessary steps that, seem a little bit, they're inconvenient for somebody. It's always going to be inconvenient until you're able to deal with that. So right now, it was the rookies. Next is dev team. Next is probably going to be the GMs and however all of this, but maybe it'll balance out. So you will have a clear estimations now of, so that next season or season after we'll be able to balance things appropriately. But things change, and I think that's what we have to understand and we have to get used to. You can't get complacent because things have to change in order to get better. So
Absolutely. To
I
become
totally,
complacent and to stop changing. There's a couple of popular variations on this phrase. It's typically either to stop changing or to stop learning is to die. And I earnestly believe both of those things. We are all, as people, in need of continuous growth, self-improvement, and change. Even as there are parts of ourselves that make up our core self, our stability, there's the need for change does not go away. And the need to be able to adapt to change never needs to go away, because the world itself is not a static thing. Life will not simply let you exist and pass you by. You can find your life passing you by, but life will find ways to inflict change upon you. So you better be ready to roll with the punches.
well, I tell you, I know that.
Yeah. So the lessons I'm learning real hard in real life in real time. So that being said, some thoughts that I'm having just in general about the Dev League. One of the other things that we're having to grapple with is that we have a Dev League now that we're going to test and make sure it works.
Yes.
But the +3 is still only +3. We don't have +3 and +3. And there's no timeline on that. So it's like, okay, now I think I've got a solution in place for next year. I'm open to feedback from the GMs and on what season 11's training camp timing should be. I'm interested in what some of that feedback might look like, because it's a big buy. It's even arguable that it's arguable that it's arguable that I should be giving the dev players more progression, because in the past they've had the ability to progress on the same schedule as the SFLm, and they were progressing in the SFLm salary pool. It's arguable. I'm not leaning that direction, because there are some parts of me that want to say no, there should be some very specific SFLm centric rewards. There should be some very specific benefits that you get for going through the entire rookie process, especially because I've taken away the draft. I've replaced it with the recruitment pool. So there needs to be a little extra. It's not the Dev League is still benefiting because they're getting more progression than they ever have before. They're just getting 19 weeks of +3 and then a bye of 50 plus 57 instead of 24 weeks of +3, and that's it. So I'm still almost doubling the amount of progression that a Dev League player is capable of. And I'm putting them in a salary bracket where they can exist and their prices will be cheaper than the pros, but it'll still be a little more expensive than the rookies, which feels appropriate to me. I would argue it's a healthier balance than what we have had, and it is, I think, a good middle ground to strike. We'll see how people feel about it as we go along, but that's really kind of what I'm looking forward to next year is one, executing the training camp this year and then learning lessons from that to take into next year to be ready for, the developer says that +3 and +3 isn't going to happen. Okay. I can't do this weekly form thing again next year. Not for 40 players, not for 100 players. I can't. It's taken too much out of my daily life and been too much of an impediment to my normal routine. And it's also led to people not getting their upgrades on time. So clearly something has to change. And the easiest thing to do, I think, is just to say, okay, we'll just do one big buy every season and work it from there.
And that was pretty much the reason why the Dev League needed to be integrated into the portal to kind of help alleviate some of that manpower that you're missing, and help give you the time, because you're human, and I tell Cam and I tell Eddie and I tell any coach and anybody else that's going above and beyond the call of duty for this hobby, it could wear on you if you're not careful. And if your organizational management isn't where it needs to be, even if you don't know what to expect, you are still, all of that is energy, all of that is time. And so you can easily burn yourself out. You can easily just say, you know what, I'm done. And that's not where you want to be. So having that integrated into the portal, having things to help being automatically updated to help alleviate that stress from you is vital,
Absolutely, because I'll be honest, like there have been more than a few moments where I'm like, I made a commitment for 1 year, but I don't think I can do this past season 11 just because of how fatigued I was feeling, and I was struggling with a lot of stuff. And I'm getting encouragement from people around me to keep at it. They all think that it's good for me and that it's been good for me to have this project, to have this hobby, to have this thing that I'm doing. I get a lot of encouragement that it's something that's good and worthwhile. People are saying they're happy with the product. So like it uplifts a bit, it's okay. I am making a difference. I am doing something here that's worth a damn. And that's been one of the things that I've been having to keep in the front of my mind, because that's also helping with avoiding the whole burnout topic and helping push through that aspect of things.
As my good friend, my 83-year-old neighbor, I love her to death. She says it keeps me out of the bar and off the street.
Amen to that.
Amen to that. It keeps me out of trouble. Me doing these podcasts, I could be out doing all this other stuff, but I'm here in the SFL doing these podcasts and interacting with everybody and keeping myself busy, and it's keeping me out of trouble. And I know a lot of y'all can probably say that too. So that's
not even a little bit wrong.
So when a team falls in the majors, does this significantly impact the placement of rookies on remaining teams? And a follow-up, would this cause a backup in the flow from the minor leagues to the majors when this occurs?
So first and foremost, a team folding in the SFL would only affect placement if we know that this organization is folding prior to or during the whole recruitment pool. If a team folds after the recruitment pool, then that player has been recruited to that roster. Then theoretically, how is these teams folding? There's so many questions surrounding what that placement looks like and how that placement is affected by what happens afterwards. There's questions about Canton. There's questions about Motor City. There's questions about those teams and those rosters, what would happen. What we saw ultimately is with the new owner buyouts, there were a handful of players that left. There were players that chose to stay. Staff overturn happened. The franchises were relocated. and they've both carried on. I don't think that a team I think that the only thing that would truly impact placing a rookie on a team would be if a team completely folded and the SFL were to contract because no buyers were found for that team or for that franchise spot. So the roster as a whole then became free agents, which we haven't seen that in some time. When's the last time an SFL team straight up folded and no one was brought in to replace, no one was brought in to support, nothing was done with that roster? Literally everyone became truly free agencies. And I'm not counting Oklahoma City because that is a deliberate release of all players by ownership. To me, it's a different circumstance. You know what I mean? That's a deliberate choice by ownership.
True. I think the only team, maybe I may be mistaken, was Sioux Falls. I don't think anybody bought Sioux Falls. And those players, a lot of them they retired or they were free agents. And so when you're an undeclared free agent, then they would fall in. So let's just say this happens theoretically. This is just hypothetically. If a team decides, hey, shutting doors, don't want to have anything else to do with it, we're done this season. How would that affect the SFLm for next season?
I don't think it would.
Okay.
Like let's on a surface level, this is an SFL team closing their doors, and that should have ostensibly no bearing on the minor leagues because I don't talk to SFL owners by and large. Some of them will approach me with questions about how things are working or gonna work, but by and large, I do not have direct communication with SFL ownership. I don't need to. I don't have a whole lot of they don't have a lot of need for me. I don't have a lot of need for them. In terms of like making deliberate decisions on every time, I'll ask for advice or I'll throw a couple ideas off the wall at a couple of owners that I like to bend the ear of just because I think that they're valuable resources and intelligent people. But that's not the same as my job being affected by their jobs. You know what I mean? If you consider owning a team as having a job. So that's how I feel about it, is that there's not really much interlocking between the two. An SFL team choosing to fold only affects the SFLm if I, as the SFLm commissioner, am having to step in and say, okay, you signed this rookie but you've also chosen to fold the team. So this rookie now has the opportunity to try and sign with any number of other teams. Because the recruiting pool is closed, you have thus trapped a rookie on your team with nowhere to go, and turned them into a UDFA and turned them into an undeclared free agent. When maybe they were only opting in because they wanted to join your squad and your franchise, or one or two of yours. So that's the only way I can ever see a decision from an SFL team deciding to fold affecting the SFLm, is if I am having to step in and try and help out a rookie who feels disenfranchised or otherwise put out in the cold by the decisions of ownership to fold a team that they just joined. That's the only thing I can think of. What was your follow-up?
1 second. Let me pull that one back up. Well, you kind of answered it. Would this cause a backflow from the minors to the majors?
Yeah. I could see a handful of players who... I could see an instance where like a player or two decided to join a team, but then the ownership decided to fold, and they had not been rookies for very long. They had the eligibility to come back into the minors. I could see welcoming them back into the fold at that point. But that's the only way I could ever see backflow. The whole point of the minor leagues and the changes I've been making with making +3s into +6s and going with, quite frankly, an aggressively insane developmental plan of 50 weeks of progression in a given calendar year. I think that's a lot. I think that ought to be more than enough for someone to not need to be in the minor leagues. Maybe you need another year in dev to cook because you spent some of your time in the minors investing in those essential stats that also start very low, like composure and leadership. Okay, you did that for a calendar year. You did a lot of that. Okay, that's going to eat, you want to get composure to 80, that's 60 points because it starts at 20. You want to get leadership to 80. Okay, let's say you're a wide receiver. Your leadership starts at 10. That's 70 points. 60 plus 70 is 130 points. That is most of a season. That is most of a minor league season, even with the +6. So a calendar year of progressions at 300 total. 150 in the first 25 weeks in one season at +6 is 150, and then 25 again +6 150. Yes, I've got my numbers right. 300. For a second, my brain was telling me I was doing the math wrong. Just investing in composure and leadership, though, isn't going to affect your overall that much. So that's one of the things to keep in mind, is that there are going to be players and people who play the really long game, people who choose to build in a way that they are planning on, I'm going to be in the minor league for an entire calendar year, and I'm going to build up a lot of intangible stats and a lot of secondary stats. I'm not going to build up those stats that necessarily bump my overall a lot at first, so that whenever I am ready to start bumping that overall, I can really throw into it, but I can wait until I'm on the dev team to do it. That's technically an option. There are people who can do that really long, slow build, and I don't think that's exploiting the system, because that's taking 18 that's taking 18 months of real time. Mm. If you want to take the really, it's something along the lines of thinking about, like, what if you want to go get a master's takes longer than a bachelor's, a master's takes longer than a bachelor's, which takes longer than associates, which takes longer than a high school diploma. So people who want to be UDFAs are high school diploma GEDs. People who spend some time in the minor leagues, who spend 6 months and they come out after that because they want to opt in, they want to get their taste of pro life, they don't want to be a rookie anymore. These people have associate's degrees. People who spend an entire calendar year in the minor leagues, hey, congratulations, you're getting +300. You're going to come out of here with a bachelor's. But if you want to be really slow and deliberate about it, if you want to push up a lot of your secondary stats, you want to work on that aggression, because you want to see your wide receiver really jumping up there, trying to make those high point catches. You want to see your guys unflappable in the fourth quarter, never melting down, always in the right place. You need lots of composure, but that's not going to help your overall, and it's not going to make your player move faster around the football field. It's not going to be flashy things. It's going to be the intangible things that don't boost your overall. But if you work on those things first and then transition to stuff that works on your overall a little bit, you come out of the minors in the 70s, but you're playing like you're in the 80s. And then you get yourself on the dev league. I give you 6 months at +3 in a training camp where you get another +3. You get another, what's that? 20 times 6 is 120 minus 6, because it's 19 times. Yeah, it's 154. Or no, it's 144 points between the +3 weekly on the portal and the big buy that I would be doing in season 11 for a hypothetical dev team player. That's still a lot of progression, a lot, especially when you compare it to the standard of 57 points of progression per major league season for a pro player, period. Flat out. That's all there is. And that's not counting if you sell off any points, because every point of progression that you sell, whenever you're selling, is a lost opportunity to buy a stat. So if someone sells 7 points of aggression off their top end during that season, then the max they can theoretically have progressed is only 50 points that year. Now, for people who have been here for a long time, people who have been here for 6, 7, 8, 9 seasons, that's not a problem, because you've had seasons and seasons and seasons of building into this player, refining this build. You've already got good baseline, so now it's just about rounding out the edges and really optimizing your performance to salary cap hit, as it were. But for people who are just joining out, they've got 55 overalls. They've got 60 overalls. They've got a lot to work on. There's a lot to be done. And, you know, if you want to look good in the minor leagues, you want to be a little bit better, you want to have an opportunity to make impacts early on as soon as you make it to the pros, and you don't want to wait a year and a half to get to the pros, you're probably going to be focused on upgrading stats that really affect your overall in big ways, things that make you look better and pop on the field. So there's the push-pull. How long are you willing to suck?
Yeah.
How long are you willing to suffer before you get really good?
And how much time are you willing to invest in yourself?
Exactly. Invest in yourself and into your future. So that's kind of the mentality, the approach, the angle that I'm taking when it comes to, yes, we are looking at overalls still. Yes, I am aware that people can manipulate their overalls by selling certain points and having certain points. And yes, I'm aware that there are stats that are important in this game that do not directly affect the overall of players, but influence the product in the field. Like, I'm aware of all of these things, and it's up to the players to decide how much they want to balance the tangibles versus the intangibles. That's not my place.
Okay. Good stuff, Alex. I'm just glad that you were able to even express that the way you did, because I think that they will give people, that example gives them a better understanding as to how it works and how they could plan their future. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I have 2 more questions and then we're finished. But I'm going to be honest, if people don't see a way, like if you're in this situation and then I don't see a way out or see a way clear, then you're going to be ready. You know what? Why am I doing this? You know, and it just seems that you are offering different ways, different channels, different avenues to make the players better, coming out. So when we are, when we are, selecting them, they can easily be placed where they need to be and not cause too much of a backup for us, being stagnant, in that position, because they're replacing somebody, but they are comparable. We would, like, you may be losing someone that has been with you for seasons and has built up and is the vital piece to your organization. And now you have a dev league member, or you have a rookie that you want to give them a shot, but they're just not quite where they need to be, So that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Now, during spring training camp, are they required to spend the rookies? Are they required to spend? I think it was the 42 points, and then the dev league members, are they required to spend 57?
I'll explain that in just 1 second. This dog
Sure.
is going to start badgering me if I don't let him out of here. 1 second. Run in. Fuzzy. Monster. Get out.
Hey, it's like that.
That's my son. Can't live with him. Can't live without him.
If it's not one thing, it's about 4 or 5. I know.
Amen. So, rookies. Yes, rookies are seeing less production in training camp for 2 reasons. One, I've been spending the first 10 weeks. Now it's going to be like 12 weeks total of time of my own personal time filling out forms so they get an extra +3 on a weekly basis. And I'm not doing that again next season, but I did it for this one. So the rookies are going to get progression equal to the number of weeks where they would have had a +3 via the form, but they're not getting one because I'm not going to keep updating the forms after the season ends, because there is, in my mind, no reason to continue updating and upgrading providing those forms for updates and upgrades whenever the players themselves are not going to be taking the field. It just doesn't make sense for me to give myself additional work on constantly updating the portal to give that immediate pop of attribute score bonus when slow rolling it a little bit, allowing the economy to not be so explosive and volatile, and then doing one big buy saves me time and effort, and also means that the economy does one big hop at the end of the year in June after most of the progression has already taken place and there's only a couple weeks of progression left to do.
Okay, so they will be spending all of this that 1 week.
Yep. It's one of those things where it's one big. It's a Google form that they're going to fill out, and I'm going to be going through that and doing one big buy. And it's going to take some time because I'm going to be doing both the Dev League and I'm going to be doing the rookies. So I'm going to have one form for each. It's going to be a task, but it's why I'm doing it in June, because it needs to be done before next season. It needs to be done in time for Cam to be able to make some of these adjustments within the portal or within so it's within his own expectations, so that he can see what else might need to happen on his side of things. That's something I still need to talk to him about, is just the general, if he has any other thoughts about this impact. But so far he's confident that it won't do anything other than make the salary cap feel a little tight for some teams. But that's every year, right? There's only so much that we can do, and we want to try and make the average paying customer have a better experience, so that comes at the cost of GM sanity today.
Yeah, well, we're already kind of nuts just for doing this. So,
I say it with love. Y'all are a crazy bunch anyways. I don't feel that bad about it, because I want to help the kids get better. The kids are not all right. I want to help the kids. Let me help the children.
Indeed. I mean, you don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to put you don't want to lift those weights. Like, you really don't want to go actually run, but you want the body though, in order to get it, you have to put the work in. And, sometimes that means being uncomfortable. So we'll get it together. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
But lastly, I want you to take us through a day in the life of Alex West on a game day, on days when you're actually going through everything. And producing games.
So every single day, I am woken up by that little monster right there, demanding that I let him outside and that I give him food. Every single day. That's how my days start. And it is always an interesting one, depending on how he decides to wake me up that morning. Some days it's cold noses, some days it's paw punches, some days it's bouncing on the bed. Some days it's little croaks. He doesn't bark. He doesn't sing. He doesn't talk, but occasionally he'll grumble. He's
okay.
He's weird. I have a husky with a broken. He's just broken. He's just crazy. I love him to bits and pieces. He's 1/3 cat, I swear. But after I get up and I get him taken care of, it's get food in my face and start working my day job. Because my day job, I normally work until 6 p.m. local. But on game days, I cut out 2 hours early so that I can have some time to get set up for production. So I skip lunch. I work straight through the day. And I condense the full 8 hours workday into about 6.5 hours. So that I can actually step away from my desk before I have to start producing, because I try to be actually done with my workday by 4 o'clock on game days, so that I can have a little time to breathe. It takes me at least about half an hour to get all of the broadcast stuff set up and just so confirm everyone's in line, confirm I've got the graphics and textures set appropriately, go over playbooks. So I guess once I'm done working, then it's just breathe in, breathe out, step outside on the back porch, get a little bit of time in the sun, and read a book for a little bit, just so I can kind of calm the mind, put it elsewhere. So then I come back in, I get all my programs pulled up, OBS, Voicemeeter, Discord, Parsec, the emulator itself, make sure I've got all the playbooks downloaded, go through all the playbooks, make sure everyone's submitted valid books, which thankfully hasn't been a problem this season. There was one game that I was starting to wonder at some point because I didn't triple check a book, and then it was the first week that Zach Benjamin unleashed the all 5 wides hell, that crazy cracked out of its mind book of his. Oh my god. I have so many. I have entire. I had a heart attack. I had this long of a message saying, "What is this book? What am I seeing? This looks broken. This looks like you've done something illegal. Why am I seeing 5 wide every single play? Why am I seeing 5 wide on 3rd and 1? Explain. I'm serious. That week for New York Gargoyles was crazy. I was freaking out. Didn't know what was happening. But no, it's a hex book where he took out all of the popular running formations that book liked to call. He just took the entire formations out and left it with looking at calling. It left it with its next most popular looks all being super pass heavy. So just by taking out the run components of an otherwise balanced book, he managed to make an offense that looked like it was conceptualized in Texas Tech's wildest fever dreams, like that kind of air raid, and it worked because of how the minor league. Something I'm going to be looking at next year is like what I'm going to be doing about 4 and 5 wide sets, because these generic cornerbacks are 55 overalls, and just by doing 5 wide sets and doing formation substitutions to get really good receivers off of their number 1 corner matchup counterparts leaves them against replacement and generics. And Michael Goodman and Jordan Goodman broke every record this season. Every single record. All of them. They broke all the records. It's crazy what they were able to do and how Zach Benjamin was able to utilize their potential to the fullest this season. It's been a wonder to watch. But also, I have to deal with that because that's not conducive to a good game state if the only way to keep up with New York is to throw 5 wides right back at them and target their 2nd and 3rd corners on their 3rd and 4th corners on the roster. Make your guys go in dime all game. Like, we could look at how to get a little bit more depth at cornerback and at safety to try and reduce the amount of impact that particular strategy has. But that's a wild dive. That's a wild hair. You asked me about my day. Looking at books. After I look at books, after I get all my programs opened up, I've got emulators set up. I check textures. I load in the playbooks. I make sure the playbooks are correct. Then I actually go into the emulator itself. I set up the quick game. I pull up everything in the game as if I were about to run it live. And then I let it run for a little bit just to make sure all the textures are looking correct, to make sure that the stadium textures are by and large correct, the uniforms loaded in right, and that the playbook isn't behaving in a way that breaks it, at least immediately.
Okay.
Because, well, the one time I didn't, I got surprised by a Super 5 wide book. It's totally legal, but also crazy. The upshot of it all is that once I do all that and I know everything works, then I go ahead and stop, take a breather, then I shift over to Discord. Typically, it's probably about 15 minutes of game time by the time I'm done doing all this. And my broadcasters are getting ready to arrive if they haven't arrived already. So then I'm checking in. Hey, how we doing? Questions, comments, concerns. Let's get plugged in, get them connected into Parsec. Some days I'm a little faster and I'm able to be there half an hour early. Sometimes it takes me until 15 minutes prior. But I'm always, I have a distinct goal of always being available and ready to go and ready to connect to Parsec by 15 minutes prior. It's a personal goal.
Yeah, because you never know what happens. I've dealt with Parsec before.
Yeah. Amen. It's one of those things that I'm still so sad that Jacob Clear and I don't know what's going on, but his Parsec hates my Parsec, and I think it's my ISP. And I cannot, for the life of me, get Jacob Clear to connect to my Parsec and broadcast games because Parsec just doesn't like his face, and I can't fix it. I can't fix it. Parsec is being a bastard.
Only to Jacob.
Yeah. It's just Jacob though. It's just Jacob. It must be because he's an Aussie. It's because he's from down under.
See, y'all gonna have to get a whole new program just because of that. You can't just
because of something. But then it's the initial kickoffs for game days for all this season were at 5:00 my time. I've had some feedback on that, so the playoff games are going to be a little bit later. As people may have noticed by the updated schedule. kickoffs instead of happening at 6 Eastern are going to be happening at the first game kickoff instead of having it at 6 Eastern is going to be happening at 8 Eastern. Let me triple check myself. Yeah, 8 Eastern. That's what I said. And the second game is going to be at 10:30 instead of it being at 6 and 8:30. So pushing it back by 2 hours to try and make it so that, one, I don't have to compress my workday as much. Two, see if that brings more people in or not. I'm hoping to have more people in just because it's playoffs, but like all the same, maybe a little later time slot will also make it easier for people to join. I got some of that feedback during the season, but I had already set the entire schedule, so I wasn't gonna revise it when I had just built a good routine, you know. So
I don't understand.
Yeah. So at this point, it's broadcast the first game. Typically all season, this first season, I have not had to be on a call for the first game. Shout out to Cameron Duty and DJ Kilgannon for being almost constant presences for the SFLm for opening kickoffs week in and week out. It's almost always been those two in the broadcast booth for game one again and again, and I can't thank them enough. Cameron said that he's made a point to trying to make sure his work schedule is adjusted, and DJ as well, so that the two of them can be there for kickoff and call those games, because they really love calling games together. They both love the minor league product. They love calling games in the minor league because they're crazy, which, oh my God, the numbers from this season have been wild. Wild. Do you know how many one-score games we've had?
No.
15. As a reminder, we had 20 games. 75% of the minor league season was a one-score ball game.
That's awesome.
Prior to that, so season 7, 54% of the games were one-score games. Season 8, 43%.
Nice trajectory.
Season 9, with its 50-something games, 54% again. That's the high water mark that the SFLm managed prior to me on board and to the 2K4 era. The high water mark is 54%. Now it's 75%. Let's add on to that. I'm ready to give you another one. Are you ready for another one?
Yeah.
We set the record for the most overtimes in a season this year.
With how many overtimes?
54 games in season 9, or 52, 54. I'm going to have to check JW. JW did the math on that. 3 overtimes that season. Season 8, no overtimes. Season 7, 1 overtime. So it's a total of 4 overtime games in 3 seasons over the course of about 100 games. We had 4 in 20 games this year. 4.
Wow.
In back-to-back weeks.
Wow.
3 weeks 6, 7, or weeks 7, 8, 9, and 10 all had extra football. 3 times in a row, 7, 8, and 9, it was San Jose all 3 weeks. And then in week 10, the overtime thriller was Boston, New York.
Well, I'll tell you what, if that doesn't spell change in a positive direction, I don't know what else would, you know. When you can see it directly affect the product in that manner, you know, you got to be doing something right.
It's kind of where I hang my hat is the quality of the product, at least for one season, has been better than it's ever been, in my opinion. The games have been competitive. We have only had a handful of blowouts, and we have never had, despite the fact that we've only had 2 game blocks, we have not had a single week that didn't have a competitive football game. Every single week had a one-score ball game. Every single week.
Well, you guys are doing fantastic over there. And I think, and it's crazy because you're doing it with less teams, you know?
Which, speaking of, can I'm going to grab this microphone right here. We are accepting more bids. We are accepting more bids. We are taking more bids. There is room for more teams in the SFLm. We want to grow. We would like to grow. I need people who have texture packages. I need people who have stadiums who have uniforms, not just one set, not just two sets, but give me a home, an away, and an alternate. Give me a stadium that looks good. Make sure it's not occupied by an existing team, because I'm not playing those games. If you need a list of who's got who, get at me. I can help. Or you can get at Destro himself, the man, the myth, the legend, who's over in DC. He knows pretty much. He also does a lot of work on textures and whatnot. Helped with all of Boston's creation and stuff. So there's plenty of resources. There's plenty of people who know how to make things, know who has what. I just need people to come to me with. Branding packages and with an idea and a plan in place, and more than just, hi, I have this. I have these files. Okay, do you have a coach? Are you going to be the coach? Who is making your playbooks? Like, I need a little bit of basic competency, and I need you to have texture files ready. If you have a little bit of basic competency and texture files ready, or at least people on staff that know what they're doing and can help you get there, I can work with that. I don't need an owner who knows everything. I need an owner who knows nothing, has what they need, has the willingness to put their time and money in, and has a staff around them to help them get there. I don't care if you don't know what you're doing. I care if you're willing to learn.
So, theoretically, hypothetically, if a SFL major league team wanted to reduce and go down to the majors, are they allowed to?
Why not? It's their branding. It's their choice. They wouldn't be able to bring their roster down with them. This would be one of those very interesting moments of like, so I've been asked this question in a different way. Not the same one-to-one, but I've been asked about I've been asked about bringing back dead SFL brands as teams in the minor leagues. And my response has been, I'm not running that team. Are you? I don't have the bandwidth to run a team for free. I don't have the bandwidth to run a team, period. I'm busy running a minor league. And also, that'd be a conflict of interest for me to run a team that I'm also commissioning in the league for. It's kind of why I'm not the owner of the Boston Rebels right now. It's why my wife is, and why I have had no part to play, no hand in it outside of saying, hey, this is what the front office staff is, and approving that and letting it be their problem. Because I have a conflict of interest that I have to maintain a barrier, therefore, between me and the Rebels. So I don't have the ability to make teams. I don't have the ability to provide staffing for teams. I have the ability to approve bids that are people bringing me teams. And if someone has staff or has the know-how themselves and has the gumption and the wherewithal, and they have texture file packages that are ready to back up their drive to succeed, I have room for you. If Eddie Gage were to decide that he was done chasing the SFL and done chasing the rings, and that he just wanted to continue to give back to the community, and he wanted to build for the future because he was just tired of how he feels, how to make playbooks week in and week out. He wants a few seasons away, but he doesn't want the Arizona Scorpions to fold. He still wants the brand in the league. He just needs a break for a while. Okay. You want to fold? You want to fold for a little while? You want to shutter the major league division? You want to come down to the minor leagues? You have to release your players, or they have to decide that they want to reset their builds and become rookies. But that could be an opportunity for you. You could take some time in the minor leagues. I'm only using Eddie just because I know he's probably watching. Not that he ever would. He's too competitive. I know that, man. This is just picking him because he's here.
I hate when people drive outside. I mean, I know you're supposed to drive outside, but like
with a hole in your muffler. With a hole in your muffler. Come on, stop using the road. I heard that rattle can.
Twice he's drove by my house. So I need you to pick a lane and go and just keep going.
Go and get going.
That's it. But that's interesting, that's just putting it out there just in case, because what I do know is that things are difficult out in the real world right now. You know, if you don't have some kind of a hobby, if you don't read a book, you don't disconnect, you go crazy with all of the stuff that's going on that's around you in the news, politically, all that stuff. So
The world is full of toxicity and difficult places to be, and it's a difficult place to exist in. So that form of escape, that time to break, that time to really reconnect with yourself is so important.
indeed, that time to reconnect with yourself, and even finding something like this or like this, basically, so you connect with people that you will probably never have connected with in any other aspect. You know,
Amen.
I live in Arizona, and there are people that are in, like you said, Australia and Hong Kong that are in the league that we would have never connected without it. So
Hmm.
it's a
Never
lot.
in a Never in a million years would I ever have encountered Chris Slovic in any capacity. That man teaches overseas. There's no way I ever could have even known he was a human being on this planet. But because of this league, I got to have one of the most entertaining, confusing, ride by the seat of my pants hour and a half sitting in a booth where I wondered what kind of ayahuasca that man is having and can I get some? Like that was some of the most fun I've ever had on a call, period. And I never would have had that opportunity had I not been here.
True. Very true. Before I go, and you can stick around for this if you like, but I want to thank you for being here, Alex. Always a pleasure having you on, talk about, what's in general, just getting to know who you are and, just rekindling and I want people to understand that you are human and in CAM, like we're human, coaches, owners, we're human and we have emotions and we are doing our best to provide a product um, that is based on really uncertainty. We don't really know how this game is going to work out. We don't even know if our feeds, our bandwidth is going to hold up for this whole show, just like we just skipped right now. You don't know how
Yeah.
this is going to go. And you put in
Right.
a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of stress into it, and you want to make it worthwhile. Looks like we have a comment in the chat. I'm actually going to quickly go over week 12 and let everybody know because we have games coming on tonight. Frank Doom, you did mention Frank Doom. Hey guys, I just finished driving for the day and jumped in. Good to see you, Frank Doom in the building.
Appreciate you, Dr. Doom. I shouted him out earlier. I'll shout him out again since he's here again. Thank you again so much for all your work this season on the roster files. Literally one of the only ways I've stayed sane and gotten things done this year is with your help.
Hey, that was leading me to say that since we all care about the league so much, we all care about our team so much, we all want to see each other do well. I think that if you can help, you should. And if you promise somebody you're going to help, then do that because they are relying on you. They may have drafted you to the team or asked you to come to the team to help, and you sold them on this. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do advanced scouting. I'm going to run sims and do all this for you every single day, every single time. Things happen in life. I get that. But you also have to make sure that you understand that someone is relying on you heavily to be able to make this whole system work. We're all integrated together. Let's see. Frank says Pennsburg, Ohio, right now for the weekend. Told you back in the summer I would help you out as much as possible.
And boy, has he delivered.
Even with the coaching and whatever Boston SFLm needs. That is very important. That is very special. So kudos for you for finding someone that is going to really be down with you, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Week 12 is coming right up. And the games will be starting tonight. You have the Matt Wilson SFL kickoff show starting things off at 5:45 p.m. Eastern. They were rolling into the 4-4 Florida Storm taking on the Fort Worth Toros at 5-4 at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. If you are watching this podcast, I do have little stars. I tried my best to draw them. Don't laugh at me. Um, little golden stars by my picks for this week, and then I will give you a full overview of all of my picks next week. But I'm choosing Fort Worth to win this home game. Florida, I'm just not sure which team is going to come to play, so I'm thinking I'm going to give Fort Worth the edge on this one. 6:45 p.m. Eastern. The 6-3 Denver Night Wings will be taking on the 2-7 Charleston Predators. I am going with Denver Night Wings on this one. Stronger showing. Also tonight at 9 p.m., the 2-7 Los Angeles Lakers will be taking on the 6-3 Houston Headhunters. At a home game for Houston, I am going with Houston on this one. And fourth game of the night will be at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. The 6-4 Queen City Corsairs will be taking on the 4-5 DC Dragons, where I am going with Queen City on this. I'm so proud of Queen City. Just
it's been amazing. It's been so amazing.
Oh my God, Alex. It's just I've always been one of those types that roots for the underdog. I'm gonna stop right here just for a second, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people have been giving them crap like for seasons. I was here season 12, so it was pretty good then, but then they fell off. Were struggling, couldn't hold people didn't want to come to the team because hearing all the naysayers, well, they just don't know what they're doing over there and all this kind of stuff, and it was wearing on them. And to see them break through that shell and now become the team that they are now, awesome. Really proud.
Oh yeah, couldn't be more thrilled. They've already guaranteed that they're going to have at least a 500 record when they have not had a 500 record since or better than a 500 record since season 17. That is an entire year, or that is entire 2 years before the game even switched. That's a crazy long time to have losing season after losing season after losing season. The change this year has been astounding, and I couldn't be more thrilled to see it. I know I am. I know Cam is thrilled to see it. It's a wonderful thing to see teams go from having just year after year where you just don't know what's going on to they finally got it.
Yes, worst to first. Love it. Love it. All right, and on Sunday, March 23rd, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, the 6-4 Carolina Skyhawks will be taking on the 4-5 Atlanta Swarm. I am actually going to go with Atlanta on this. They're really hard to beat at home, and again, Carolina they're 6-4. Obviously, they're doing their thing. They're a lot better than they have been over the past few seasons, more reliable at least. But I think ATL is just going to have that win just because they're in the hive. 6:45 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, the 0-8 OKC Renegades will be taking on the 3-6 Indianapolis Ramblers. I'm going to go with the Ramblers on this until OKC can show me something. Give me a little breath of life, man.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go with Indy on this one. Also, Sunday, March 23rd, 9 p.m. Eastern, the 3-6 Pittsburgh Riverhawks will be taking on the 5-4 Sin City Samurai. Whew, say that name 3 times fast. I'm going for Sin City to win this home game as well. Then 9:15 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, the 2-7 Chicago Warriors are taking on the 7-2 Albuquerque Adams. I'm going for the Adams to win this game. 2 games on Monday this week. You can tune in to Cameron Irvine and Mike Sangreen doing This Week in the SFL at 7:15 p.m. Eastern. But let me go ahead and move this banner out the way really quickly.
I like seeing my name on the screen twice, though.
You like that. You like that. So after This Week in the SFL, March 24th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern, we will have the Vancouver Legion 7-2 taking on the Mexico City Aztecs, current champions, sitting at 6-2. This will be a home game for Mexico City, but I am going to give this win to Vancouver because they have been showing prowess on the field. If Mexico City can stop that high-powered offense, then they definitely stand a chance, but I'm going with Vancouver. And lastly, at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, the 4-4 Arizona Scorpions will be taking on the 5-4 Minnesota Legends. And we definitely do have a tall hill to climb with this one. They have been giving us fits in practice. We have been doing everything that we can, but I am going with the Arizona Scorpions to win this game, even though it is a road game, even though Minnesota will be at home. And that forest is definitely filled with a lot of trees, but we're going to go in there and start cutting some now. We'll see how everything goes. And again, I will give you my whole overview of how all of my final numbers for this week included next week. So, Alex, does any of these games kind of stick out to you before we go?
I mean, excluding the fact that I get to be in the broadcast booth to close out Monday night and call that Arizona mini game, like I'm super excited about just being in the booth with that one, especially calling with Ethan. I don't feel like I've called a game with him since last year's semifinal matchup where we got to call that Mexico City, that legendary Mexico City game that went to overtime. That was, I'm so ready for another great call. I'm hopeful that there's another exciting game in the works for it. But really, that Monday night slate is tough. The other game that we're matched up against, Vancouver, Mexico City, 7-2 against 6-2. Oh, I expect fireworks. That one is my big highlight, and I am going to be watching it. Even as I do my broadcast research work, I'm going to be watching that one because how are you going to miss this one?
Indeed. Well, Alex, that is awesome. Awesome work from you. Oh, it looks like we got some comments in the chat. Looks like Frank. Doom and Charleston against Denver. What some don't understand is the sims are so unpredictable. You can have a practice sim all week, a good practice sim all week, but when the game counts, you have a bad sim and lay an egg. True, because sometimes there are some things that you will see in practice, like, oh yeah, we got this together. I'm winning. We winning all these games, and then all of a sudden you put that up against your opponent, and you're like, what happened? You know?
It's like that book wasn't what I saw. That book wasn't what we practiced against. That book isn't the book that I submitted didn't behave that way at all during testing. Why did it call that audible there? I thought I took that out of the book. All of it. I've heard it. Let me tell you, that's one of those things I feel like I've heard a lot more of as a minor league commissioner. It's like, I thought I took that audible out. It's like, you can check the file you sent me, bud. All I know is I put your file in there. I don't know why it happened. The game does what it wants.
Clearly, because it clearly wants me to make these touchdowns the hardest way possible by throwing to TJ Punk, and he's covered by 3 people. Clearly.
You gotta throw to the guy who's got 2 corners underneath and a safety over the top because of the style points.
That's it. I think that should be an incentive right there, actually. I think that should be extra money if I make the connection.
You do not need extra money, Miss Jackson. How you do not? I will go look at your. I will go look in your bank balance right now. You do not need more money.
Look at it.
You do not need more money.
Florida, are you going to look at it?
Girl, you do not need. No, get out. Okay, I understand where you're coming from. What with the price of some of these passing stats, but also it's your fault for having them all at 90.
Well, we're not talking about that. So Florida.
Oh, I love coming on your show, Ashley. I love it so much.
Love you too, man. Because Florida and Minnesota are the only picks I disagree with you on, Ms. Jackson. Well, I'm not getting ready to go against my own team, Frank.
I was about to say.
That's just not gonna happen. Okay, so that was always going to be the case. And Florida, it's going to be what it is. It is what it is.
Very
Minnesota rumored to be called Mr. Freeze to make it a winter weather dome to put you in freeze. Hey, it has been a long time since I felt cold. Actually, last night it was 40 degrees out here. 40. I was freezing.
Burr.
40.
40.
People deal with negative numbers, and I'm cold at 40. This is ridiculous. Born again champion, what's going on, man? Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you, brother. better better restructure some of them contracts. We working on it, man. We have to make sure we make the cap. Jimmy Hattis, what's going on? Uh-oh. Breaking news, week 13, March 28th, Friday night, SFL is flexing out the Lexington at Nashville for the Houston at Denver. Lexington and Nashville takes Houston Denver's old time slot. Okay. Ashley and Alex needs to be a weekend feature. Listen, I would love to do that if Alex has time. He missed it. He did not hear everything you just told us. He didn't hear it, because I'll tell you what.
I did hear it. We could be. I don't know about every single weekend, but we could. I don't mind. Invite me on. We can work on it. We can work on it.
I mean, it's easier now because I'll do it live. Now, when I was actually recording, and then I had to cut, and then I had to, even though I do miss that, I actually do miss editing my own videos. I miss that so much. But I do enjoy the convenience of being live, and hey, let's just meet right here. We don't have to do too much planning because, for us, we just kind of flow. It's not that serious, So I wouldn't mind doing it with you, just so we can keep tabs, a pulse on the Dev and the SFLm league, so we can get together.
And honestly, like, I'm happy to be here in my role as commissioner, and I'm also happy to just be here as another fan of the SFL and another member of the community who just loves watching the game. So, we can chop it up.
Love it, man. 40 degrees is barbecue weather in Michigan. I guess. I know I used to be able to take a lot more of the cold than I am, but whatever.
It's grilling weather if it's not 110, and if the rain isn't falling on you. It's grilling weather, period.
If it's 100, it gets up to like 120 degrees outside. So if it's like that, I just put my stuff outside.
Real. Just get a nice reflective silver pan, put it out there, crack a couple of eggs, leave it on top.
Because guess what? I'm running my my oven. That's gas.
Yeah,
I'm saving money. Why not? That's it.
Solar powered. We can keep this going all day. I gotta let you get me out of here.
I have to let you go so you can get you some rest, some type of rest. But thank you. I appreciate you. Come back when you can.
Ta-ta.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I really appreciate it, y'all. I am going to figure out what I'm going to do for my show next week. I think I'm going to be talking to offensive linemen and kickers. So if you are interested in being on the show, talking more, I want to highlight the offensive line, especially, and special teams, of course. But the offensive line doesn't get a lot of love. And me being a quarterback, personally, they mean a lot to me. The Red Sea means so much. And I definitely want to get, hopefully, my team on here. Anybody that's representing O-line, please come out. I'll definitely want to give you your flowers, because you deserve them. But I'm looking forward to bringing you guys another great podcast next week, y'all. But until then, you stay safe. Treat each other well. Try not to stress out, have this depression and anxiety. Now, I will be doing that show, too, just so you guys know, while I'm looking for my music. I will be doing a show on stress, anxiety, and depression. I'm thinking of doing that sometime in April. So please be on the lookout for that. I'm going to put all kind of notices out and everything for that, because I think that we're all going through this. We're all going through a lot personally, especially with the climate as it is outside. I think we need each other more than ever. So I'll be willing to be able to share my platform and do that for everybody. But until then, y'all stay safe. Have a good day. Put your goodbyes in the chat. I'll be happy to run across the screen. Go to SFL for game links.
You ain't even know me. Trust my brothers from way back from the north. Whiskey and Dior, spend it like they owe me. Gotta stay select. Don't come around to me, better come correct. Different lives that we lead, I'm in the night.
check in a bank, Louis V. Two tone on my bitch, lights don't make no sense, pop up for a minute, I swap on my whip, Benzes and BMs, lights don't make no sense, baby, fall back too close, you ain't even know me, trust my brothers from way back from the north, it's the end of your, spending like they owe me. Ain't no ain't no time unless it's V's. It's the top of the shelf. It's that stress to get at me, and it's closer to the chest when your pocket's too deep. Two tone on my wrist, lights don't make no sense. Pop up for a minute, I swap on my whip, Benzes and BMs, lights don't make no sense. Baby, fall back too close, you ain't even know me. Trust my brothers from way back from the north, it's the end of your, spend it like they